So I was just watching Owen Benjamin's 177 NASA and Mass Hypnosis. And right at this point here in the video, he brings up a point that he often brings up about him telling the truth, or at least what he's saying is something he believes in. Even if it's not necessarily true, he honestly is believing in it and speaking about it. And this is, I want to criticize this point. This is a point Jordan Peterson often makes, and I've leveled this criticism at Jordan Peterson as well. And I think Owen really needs to hear this criticism because he's echoing Jordan right here. And Jordan is someone he, of course, doesn't seem to have much respect for anymore. But yet he's still echoing this point from Jordan Peterson. And I'm going to bring up The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis, because I think C.S. Lewis speaks to this very well. And it's about sins of the intellect. So I'll let Owen speak here so you can understand what I'm talking about, and then I will do a little quote from The Great Divorce.
That's academia, and Hollywood is all of that. And there comes a point, a tipping point, when you either agree with the darkness, the nihilism, the postmodernism, where everything you say is true, even if you're lying, or you don't. That's why my slogan, my motto, my thing I live by is I might be wrong, but I'm not lying. Every day I think about that. I don't lie, because that's what does it. That's what makes you lose your soul. My dad he doesn't know what the truth is anymore. In it, he'd be like, I'd be like, oh, there's a dictionary. He'd be like, in his mind, he's like, it's an elephant. It's almost complete madness. And I saw that with movie stars too. And like Jimmy Kimmel can go out there and talk about, how guns cause all the violence. And dude, I was just in Denver. They have a giant blue Satan horse named Lucifer.
So he said what I wanted to comment on. He makes a lot of interesting points around this time of the video. I think he needs to research the NASA stuff a little bit more. I have a friend who works at NASA, and over the years we've talked, we've chit-chatted about different things, and it really doesn't take a lot of research to dismantle some of his points here about NASA. But anyway, I think I want to address that in a more comedic video at some point. But so what does C.S. Lewis say about the sins of intellect? So in chapter 5 of The Great Divorce, he has a conversation with the Episcopal ghost. And you can think of the Episcopal ghost. I tried to compare this ghost to Jordan Peterson because he's sort of an academic who has a lot of religious overtones. But when I did this critique towards Jordan many videos ago, you could see Jordan was sort of walking a tightrope, because in one line, Jordan would sort of echo this ghost. But then the next line I read, Jordan would seemingly say the opposite. So Jordan seemed to be wavering to and fro, becoming the archetype of this character. And I think in this one point, Owen is also echoing this character and this sin of the intellect. And that's why I'm addressing it to Owen right now. And it's only on this point. The Episcopal ghost does not really resemble Owen in any other way, really. So I'll quote here C.S. Lewis. "This is worse than I expected. Do you really think people are penalized for their honest opinions? Even assuming, for the sake of argument, that those opinions were mistaken." And this is a little bit difficult because it's dialogue, so I'm not really good at differentiating my voice. But here's the second ghost speaking, because the first was the Episcopal ghost, and here's the second one. "Do you really think there are no sins of intellect? There are indeed. There is hidebound prejudice and intellectual dishonesty and timidity and stagnation, but honest opinions fearlessly followed, they are not sins. I know we used to talk that way. I did it too until the end of my life, when I became what you call narrow. It all turns on what are honest opinions. Mine certainly were. They were not only honest, but heroic. I asserted them fearlessly. When the doctrine of the resurrection ceased to commend itself to the critical faculties which God had given me, I openly rejected it. I preached my famous sermon. I defied the whole chapter. I took every risk. What risk? What was at all likely to come of it except what actually came? Popularity, sales for your books, invitations, and finally a bishopric. Now here you could see, as I interject, you can see how I was applying this perhaps to Jordan Peterson. And this is how perhaps Owen Benjamin himself might apply this part to Jordan Peterson. But I would say here's where Owen, he fearlessly charges forth with these opinions that he has. And he honestly believes them. And so there's no sin in that, right? And he's taken all the hits for his honest opinions. But guess what? A lot of your honest opinions are mistaken. They're wrong. You're sending out the wrong information to your people. And there is a sin in that. And you're charging headlong into it. So I'll continue with C.S. Lewis here. This is unworthy of you. What are you suggesting? Friend, I am not suggesting at all. You see, I know now. Let us be frank. Our opinions were not honestly come by. We simply found ourselves in contact with a certain current of ideas and plunged into it because it seemed modern and successful. Now I'll interject again, and I'm going to skip about a paragraph. You can look it up yourself if you want to keep reading this. But doesn't that remind you of Owen, if you're following Owen at all? I know a lot of my people on my subscriber list here are not exactly followers of Owen. But if you are following Owen, you'll see that he's come across Vox Day. He's really gotten into this guy instead of Jordan Peterson and Milo and Stefan Molyneux and so forth. And he's sort of gone down that rabbit hole, and Alex Jones. So this whole crew is very much influencing Owen Benjamin these days. And this is the modern and successful crowd that I would say matches what C.S. Lewis is talking about here. And if you're applying this criticism to Jordan Peterson, well, it's the college elite, the professorial types who can't admit that there's a resurrected Jesus that they believe in because it wouldn't be the most brilliant thing to believe in their circles. And so you can see how this criticism can be applied to both people. But here I'm trying to focus on Owen Benjamin at the moment. And so I'm going to skip down to this part in the middle of the page. You know that you and I were playing with loaded dice. We didn't want the other to be true. We were afraid of crude salvationism, afraid of a breach with the spirit of the age, afraid of ridicule, afraid, above all, of real spiritual fears and hopes. And the way I'm applying this now to Owen Benjamin instead of Jordan Peterson, as I did in a previous video, is that Owen Benjamin has a very simplistic, on-off, believe or don't believe way of looking at Christianity and God. God exists, or he doesn't, which one is it? And he kind of ridicules Jordan for a more sophisticated understanding and breakdown of all these complex issues. And I think here you can see Owen is afraid of real spiritual fears and hopes, because when you get into the details like Jordan is, there's something really scary down there in the depths that I know Owen doesn't want to wade into and understand that stuff or look at it. He doesn't want to look into the abyss. And Jordan is in this sense. Now, I think Owen might turn that around and say, oh, I did stare into the abyss of Hollywood and I got run out of there, and I gave up all the money and fame and so forth to keep my honor and so forth. Whereas he would now claim Jordan is taking the money and the easy street and the high life and so forth. Anyway, I just don't, again, I've covered that numerous times in other videos. I don't see it that way. But I am trying to Iron Man Owen's position as I'm doing this criticism. Now back to C.S. Lewis. I'm far from denying that young men may make mistakes. They may well be influenced by current fashions of thought, but it's not a question of how the opinions are formed. The point is that they were my honest opinions, sincerely expressed. Of course, having allowed oneself to drift, unresisting, unpraying, accepting every half-conscious solicitation from our desires, we reached a point where we no longer believed the faith. Now here, notice the half-conscious solicitations from our desires. I would apply that to Owen going down all these various conspiratorial rabbit holes. And, of course there's kernels of truth everywhere you look, but he's overall spreading things that are false, not true. And these are his half-conscious whims and desires that he's falling prey to. Just in the same way, a jealous man, drifting and unresisting, reaches a point at which he believes lies about his best friend. A drunkard reaches a point at which, for the moment, he actually believes that another glass will do him no harm. The beliefs are sincere in the sense that they do occur as psychological events in the man's mind. If that's what you mean by sincerity, they are sincere, and so were ours. But errors which are sincere in that sense are not innocent. Well, you'll be justifying the Inquisition in a moment. Why? Because the Middle Ages erred in one direction, does it follow that there is no error in the opposite direction? And it goes on from there with the conversation with the Episcopal ghost. But I thought that was the most relevant to Owen Benjamin, and I tried to Iron Man his position a little bit as I gave the critique. What do you all think about Owen Benjamin saying that he sincerely has these beliefs, and he sort of charges headlong with honest opinions, whether or not they're true, or not? I think it's a wrong-headed kind of way to go about things, and again, for someone who is so against Jordan Peterson, he seems to still echo a lot of what Jordan Peterson stands for and believes in, and I think Jordan is also wrong for holding this up as some kind of motto to live by, that you should hold these, speak sincerely whether it's false or not. That's no motto to have. So what do you all think?
Evil men like a spring without water, betrothed to the piety. They cheer and toast to the Holy Ghost, but just won't let me be. I will burn your kingdom down if you try to conquer me and mine. I will burn your kingdom down if you try to conquer me and mine. I saw the end in the mist of a river. The devil made it hard to see. He laughed and joked, but then I spoke. God won't let you be. I will